Good morning. Good morning. Riley and Van Gogh checking in today on Saturday, June 8th, and today is day number 37. This is the campsite that Riley and I were so fortunate to find yesterday as we were coming up the mountain this way, and then it kind of switchbacks in this direction, and we hadn't seen a campsite in so long, and we still had 1.2 miles to get to where Saunders Shelter is. And me specifically, Riley was doing fine, but me specifically was absolutely exhausted. And so I was surprised. I was not expecting to find a campsite, but here it was. And so we grabbed it right when we saw it, and I was very relieved that we didn't need to hike anymore. And we had Riley is ready to go here, so we're gonna get going soon. But very nice sleep last night. Slept like a baby, and we slept in this morning. I don't know what time it is, but yeah, great night's sleep last night, and we are gonna get started with the day, and we will see how it goes. So we will check in later. All right, buddy, let's go. So Riley and I have started the hike today, and we've just started a little while ago, so we're still ascending the mountain up to where the Saunders Shelter is. So this is the trail that we would have been doing last night if we had not found the campsite. And the trail here is actually very nice. And it was, I think, like the trail that we were on last night before we got to the campsite. It was maybe a little bit rockier, but it wasn't very different. So my point that I am getting to is that the trail here is fine. The two factors that were making it difficult last night were, number one, I was absolutely exhausted, so hiking is incredibly more difficult when you're really, really tired. And number two, it was dark, so hiking is also much, much more difficult when it's dark outside than when you have all the light around you. But I think the bigger factor is that I was exhausted. I was exhausted physically and exhausted mentally. As in, well, exhausted physically and exhausted from a sleepiness standpoint. So my legs were tired, but I think even more, my mind was ready to shut off and go to bed. And so that made my concentration, my ability to concentrate, lower, much lower. My ability to navigate the rocks was much less strong as it is when my mind is fresh. It's kind of like when you're driving and you're really, really tired. That can be dangerous. And so now today, I feel my mind is feels much better. It's definitely refreshed. And so the hiking is much easier today. So, I mean, I went into the evening yesterday with the plan to try to get to a campsite before it got dark, or at least, without needing to do a lot of night hiking, and we just got trapped in an area where there were no campsites, and suddenly the trail got much harder. So it is what it is. It's my fault. I'm the one making the decisions out here. But at least we made it through, and we're doing fine still. So I'm pleased about that. And I think there may have been a bear that yeah, Riley, hold up, buddy. Okay, I saw something big move up there. Riley, it's okay, buddy. I think there's a bear up there. Riley, it's okay, buddy. It's okay, Riley. Alright, so I'm going to put the camera away and get control of Riley here. Get more control, and we'll continue on. Alright, so Riley and I have finally made it to the sign indicating the turnoff for the Saunders shelter. Didn't take too long for us to get to it this morning. I'm estimating we probably have been hiking for 15 to 20 minutes since we left our campsite. And it's been normal, fairly easy hiking. So nice terrain, and the sunlight helps tremendous amount. So yeah, and the shelter is a quarter-mile off trail, so we're not going to go in there. We're just going to continue on the AT and enjoy the day. Be thankful for the sunlight. Be thankful that we got a good night's sleep last night, and that our minds are refreshed compared to last night. And it's not a super hot day. It's just a nice temperature so far. Certainly could get hotter later. And by the way, this is my chocolate milk here. So I've just been drinking it whenever I am thirsty or whenever I'm in the mood for some chocolate flavor. And it's been really nice to have. It hasn't been super hot, so it hasn't spoiled. It still tastes good to drink, but I should be finishing it off, I would say, in the next few hours. So no worries about it spoiling at all. All right, we'll check in later. Hello, Riley. Riley is just watched some bikers pass by. So today has gone fine so far. Day's warming up a little bit, but it's still not hot. It's fine. We have had a few somewhat challenging stretches of trail, but nothing that's lasted for an extended period of time, and then it's quickly got back to fairly pleasant trail. And we're actually about to rejoin the creeper trail for a bit. I think just like definitely less than 2 miles, but here we go. So the creeper trail's over there, and the AT has a double white blaze, which indicates something's about to happen. And now it says AT continues left, and this is the creeper trail. And then this is the sign letting the bikers know that this is the AT. All right, let's continue on. So this will be some very, very pleasant hiking for us. Nice and flat. In honor of Tom Horsch, President VCTC, maybe Virginia Cycling something, 1995 to 1999. The only tricky part about this is Riley has more places to go now since the trail is so much wider, so. Hold up, buddy. Hold up, buddy. Hold up, Riley. You're fine. Hold up, buddy. Watch out, buddy. No, watch out, buddy. Hello. How are you? Hold up, buddy. Watch out, Riley. Watch out, buddy. Hello. How are you? Come on, buddy. Let's go ride. So I feel like this section is going to require a lot of patience on my part, as because Riley's going to be so interested in all the passersby. So I'm going to put the camera away, and we'll check in later. In case you're curious, the surface that we're walking on is a very, very fine rock surface. I guess you could call it a crushed gravel, perhaps. So it's not a pavement or a tar surface. There are little, very fine, small rocks beneath our surface, but it makes for, they're so small that it makes for a very nice surface to cycle on. Nothing to really impede cyclists. Kind of similar to parts of the C&O Canal towpath and the Great Allegheny Passage, which I hiked back in 2022. And this right here, we're going in the opposite direction, but this is a sign for the Virginia Creeper Trail. So I'm guessing this used to be a railroad, which has been turned into a bicycle path. All right, come on, Riley, other way. As we get closer to the end of this shared section of the Creeper Trail and the AT, there's going to be a really big bridge that we're going to cross, which I absolutely remember from my previous AT hikes. So I will make sure to show it when we get there. It's a really, really huge bridge. And that down there is a side bike trail that follows the creek that goes by. And there was a sign a while back where the entrance to that side trail was that labeled it as like a way to get to a popular fishing place. So I guess people can take their fishing rods and fish in the creek down there. We're going in the opposite direction, but a few bikers just passed by. So Riley likes to get in his crouching position and just monitor where they cycled off to. It's nice that we're in the shade. There's a biker ahead of us who's just getting on the bridge right now, and he was kind of waiting behind me until I realized he was there, and then I pulled off to the side. By the way, this is the really big bridge that I was talking about. Nice bench here. Yes, so this is called the Luther C. Hassinger Memorial Bridge, dedicated to Luther C. Hassinger, President, Hassinger Lumber Company Incorporated, built and operated sawmill in Conarock from 1906 to 1928 in recognition of his contributions to early day development of the area. Riley, what's this? In honor of the Virginia Creeper Trail Club volunteers. Very nice. Thank you, Riley. So we can see the underside of the bridge now. So there's three very large concrete pillars to give the bridge support. So that, yeah, this is a substantial bridge. All right, I'll pick this trash up. I don't always pick up trash on these kinds of sections here that are so populated because there would be a lot to pick up, but I'll pick that piece up. Yeah, so that biker that passed us, that was the first biker that actually passed us in the direction that we were going. And as he passed us, he said, "Are you going to Maine?" So that was nice that he engaged a little conversation with us, and I said, "Yes, sir." And then he said, "Good luck." And then he biked on. We're gonna have to get back in the shade soon. It's getting warm here in the sunlight. So before the day's out, I will give an update on our time in Damascus. Just talk about like the night that we spent there and then the activities that we engaged in during the day. I haven't given a full rundown of that yet, so I'll do that before we close out the day here today. And also, before that, just going back to our experience last night, where we did end up hiking well into the dark and had some trouble finding a campsite. And I said earlier, like, yeah, it's my fault. Like, I'm the one making the decisions out here, and that's true. But I don't mean to say that to imply that I'm just like mad with myself. Like, it's just something that happened. And I'm not like angry at myself for it. I don't think I did something wrong. I mean, like, on the one hand, it definitely was hard on us to have to hike into the dark. But I mean, that's just part of being on the trail. That's part of like the unknown of things that you're going to experience out here, which you can't predict before they happen necessarily. You can certainly take precautions, like you can make a plan to always camp before 6 p.m. Or something. And if you don't find a campsite before 6 p.m., then just okay, so we're getting back onto the AT now, because this way, so now we're ending our time. Come on, buddy. No, we're going back. So yeah, so we're leaving the creeper trail now. Come on, Riley. Riley does not really. Okay. Hello, Riley. Okay. Yeah, I mean, all right, so we do need to get off because there's a biker coming, so we gotta clear the trail here. I'm gonna check back in here. Riley, get off the trail. Yeah, so as I was saying, there's so many bikers here. Hello, how are you? Yeah, so as I was saying, like, you could make a plan to avoid that scenario that we had last night from happening, where you have to hike into the dark, by just setting a rule that you're always gonna try to find a campsite before a certain time that's like a good bit in advance of dark. And of course, there's no guarantee that you could actually keep that, but at least that would give you more time to find a campsite if you weren't able to find a campsite before your chosen time. But that would come with, like, if you created like a rule like that, that would create all sorts of like side consequences, that you wouldn't be able to hike into the evening then, and use up all the daylight that you have during your days. So yeah, so I'm just saying that I'm not upset with I'm not angry at myself for allowing the situation last night to have happened. I just view it as one of the things that happens out here, and there's silver linings to a lot of things. So like, yes, it was difficult, but at the same time, that made finding the campsite that we found last night, which was unexpected. I was thinking we were going to have to go all the way to the shelter. That made finding the campsite like all the more special and all the more joyful when it actually happened. And then it also makes, like, when we wake up this morning and we have sunlight, it makes us all the more appreciative of being able to use the sunlight and recognizing how much easier it is to hike in the daylight than it is at nighttime. And yeah, so there's silver linings to all these challenges that we put ourselves through, or that I put Riley and myself through. And like, I guess I feel comfortable in the fact that even though I do like to hike into the night, I am fine with taking a break whenever we need to. So like, we did take a couple breaks last night, and like the second break was an extended break where I actually just lied down on the trail because I was that tired. And so had we needed to continue hiking to the shelter last night, I would have been fine with taking as many breaks as I needed to get there. And we would have eventually gotten there. And it would have been hard and challenging, but part of going through those challenges is what makes the whole experience, I feel like, so special, and what makes you really be thankful for when you're not in a difficult situation. That's just my viewpoint. And I'm enjoying the day today. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm refreshed, mostly refreshed, and it's a nice sunny day, and we're doing fine out here. So I'm in a good mood now. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to make clear that I'm not viewing the things that happened last night as just entirely negative. All right, we'll check in later. Hope everyone's doing well. Riley and Van Gogh here checking in. Riley is taking the opportunity to jump in front of me, and now his leash is all tangled up. Let me untangle this. I'll be right back. So this right here is my nifty GoPro headset, where I can attach the GoPro right here and then just wear this around my head. And I figured now would be a good time to try it out, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll check back in. And since I showed the headband, I figured I would also show what I've been using so far. So this is the GoPro Shorty stick. So the camera just attaches to this point, and I can just hold it with my hand, and then it also functions as a tripod. The legs come out like that, and you can easily just like set it down on a surface. I haven't really used that feature very much so far, but that's what I've been using so far. Okay, so I believe the camera should be working now. It's on my head, attached to the head strap that I just showed. Riley is behind me now. And the day is winding down. I believe it's early evening or so. We've passed several campsites where I've seen tents already set up. So we have limited daylight to work with. We got to the shelter after Saunders Shelter. That was 6.5 miles after Saunders Shelter, and it was called Lost Mountain Shelter. And Riley insisted that we go in because there were people there, so we stopped in and just took a break at the picnic table. And we kind of took a longer break than I was thinking we would, but Riley just got a good rest lying on the picnic table, and I ate some Cracker Jacks, a lot of Cracker Jacks actually, and was looking through my AT AWOL guide, studying up on upcoming towns that we're getting to, and also towns further down along the trail. And then we continued on a little bit, and then we took another break, a shorter break at a campsite after I'd filled up on water, and gave Riley a late afternoon meal with his dog food and mixed it with some water, so he's should be well fed at this point and well hydrated. We have a bit of a climb that we're working through now. I looked in my AWOL guide earlier, and I think we're in the middle of a 2-mile long ascent that goes up definitely over 1,000 feet in elevation. I don't remember the exact change, but it looked like a significant climb according to the elevation profile in my AT guide, and doesn't seem super bad so far. We've gone over a few switchbacks, and the terrain isn't too rocky, so it's nothing we won't be able to handle as long as we just be careful and take our time. I think we're kind of coming up on another switchback possibly, or just a change of direction. So, what's on my mind here? So, one thing is, if you've been watching my videos on a regular basis, I wanted to provide a correction of something I said previously, and that was regarding the observation that I haven't stayed at many shelters recently. And I think I had said recently that the last shelter that I stayed at was called what is the name? Oh, Jerry Cabin Shelter. Yeah, the last time I was trying to recall the name, it was escaping my mind as well. But yeah, Jerry Cabin Shelter, around mile 300 on the trail. And then I realized today that that actually was not correct. That was the second to last shelter that I stayed at. And I believe the last shelter that I stayed at was Roan High Knob Shelter, which was before Roan Mountain. I think it was about mile 380 or so on the trail. And I remember that well because it is, I mentioned it during the video, but it is the shelter that has the highest elevation of any other shelter on the trail. And Riley and I had a heck of a time getting to it because it was a big day for us. We did like 21.6 miles that day, and we got in past 10 p.m. and it was dark by the time we got there, so that is definitely memorable. So somehow I forgot that when I was previously saying, or trying to think of the last shelter that I'd stayed at. So at this point, though, still, that is over 100 miles from where we are now.
right now, when we were at Lost Mountain Shelter a little while back, that was a little past mile 485 on the trail. All right, so that was one thing that was on my mind. The other thing is I wanted to give an update on our time in Damascus. Because I took a little footage and showed some stuff while we were there, but I didn't provide a more thorough description of what we did there compared to how much I was kind of building it up before we got there. So we got there. Today is Saturday. Okay, I don't know what Riley's doing here. It gives me a chance to catch my breath though. Yes, today is Saturday. We hiked out yesterday and Friday, so we got there on Thursday evening. And we got there late on Thursday. It was really Thursday night that we got there. I believe it was already past 9 p.m. Okay, follow me, Riley. It's already past 9 p.m. and I was originally hoping that there would be like a campsite that we could stay at that was still in the woods but very close to the entrance to the town. That was just one thought that I had. But that turned out to not be the case. There was no viable campsite that was very close to the entrance to the town, but still in the woods. So anyway, so we got into town, and our first stop was to go to the library, and that made sense because the library is located very close to the town park, which the AT goes right next to. So it didn't take us long to get there. And we walked up the front porch to the entrance, and I was able to get familiar with the lay of the land there. So they had some power outlets that you could plug your devices into, and I was able to connect to their Wi-Fi system, which was nice and easy. There was no password required. I also saw a sign there that said that the building is monitored like 24/7 via security camera. Well, this is nice. This is nice. Okay. What do we do here, Riley? What do we do here? I guess we could go through that way, or we could go up that way. Let's try going through this way. This may not be the easiest, but I think it can work. I'm gonna go first, and then I think Riley can follow me. Hold up, buddy. Come on, Riley. Here we go. So this is something that I wouldn't be able to do without my headset that I'm wearing. I would have to put the camera away so that I have all my hands free, but so that's kind of cool that I can take some new style footage. Anyway, so getting back to my story. So we got to the library, and yeah, there was that sign there that said that the building was monitored via security camera. So that made me feel a little uncomfortable actually about like staying there for an extended period of time. But anyway, so my next order of priority was to figure out what we were going to do for the night, right? So were we going to stay at a hostel, or continue on, or go back into the woods? I really wasn't sure. In 2018, the last time I hiked the AT, I stayed at a hostel called Woodchuck Hostel. And so that was the one that I was most familiar with. And I looked up information about it on my Far Out app, and it looks like they have changed ownership, or at least changed management since I was there in 2018. There was a man there who ran it in 2018, and it seemed like a really popular place. It seemed like the preferred hostel of many hikers when they got to Damascus back 6 years ago. But currently there's a lady named Miss Rita who's running it, which I found out via my Far Out app. And that's all well and good. That's fine. It seemed like before I got to town, it seemed like the hostel was open and that it might be a good option to stay at. But I also learned apparently Damascus has implemented a new policy recently that forbids any tenting in town, including at hostels. So if you are a hostel owner and you want to use your house to provide rooms for hikers and make some money, if you have a backyard, you're not allowed to provide the option to hikers for them to set up their tent in your own backyard. And that impacts me because that's usually my preferred choice for staying at a hostel, since that's the cheapest option usually. Especially given that I have a dog. Like, usually there's 3 options for staying at a hostel. You can either tent in the yard, which is usually like $15 or so, or you can stay in a common room called a bunkhouse, where you're sharing the room with many other people, but you get your own individual bed. And so that's usually definitely an upgrade from sleeping in a tent. And you also are inside, which is very nice. And then the third option is that you can get your own private room, which is the most expensive option. Staying in a bunkhouse usually costs like $30, I think. And then staying in a private room can cost $50, $70, and upwards, depending on the amount of work that the hostel owner has put into making it fancy. And so for me with Riley, staying in a bunkhouse is usually not an option. Hostel owners do not like to have animals, dogs, inside the bunkhouse. I assume the reason is that there's just a lot of people who are staying in the bunkhouse, and there's a good chance that at least one of those people is not a fan of dogs. And so they want to make sure that the bunkhouse is something that everyone who's staying there can be happy with. I assume that's the reason. So in terms of my experience staying at hostels, that limits my options to either tenting or getting a private room. Riley just is so interested in something. It's like there's a bear somewhere. But you're not barking. So, Riley, if you'll let me get in front of you, I'm gonna try to help guide us here. Okay. He's letting me walk, so that's good. Yeah, so I have 2 options, either tenting or pay for a private room. And between those 2 options, there's a huge difference in cost. I can either pay $15 for a tent, which gives me access to the Wi-Fi at the place, as well as taking a shower and doing laundry, as well as getting a breakfast if they provide that service, as well as access to the kitchen. And then getting a private room is certainly nicer, but it's way more money. It could be close to $100. So for me, that's something I'm not really very excited to do. And so with the no tenting policy in Damascus, that meant that all of the options available, assuming I could find a hostel that even accepted a dog, would be pretty expensive. So with that background, I apologize for the belabored description here. Riley and I eventually, or shortly after we checked out the library, I decided to walk down to where Woodchuck Hostel was, using my map and where I remembered it being. We got there and they had their sign up, got to the front door, and there was a sign on the front door saying no vacancy. By the way, I did try to call them earlier in the day, but when I tried to call them, it went straight to Miss Rita's voicemail, and I could have left a voicemail, but I chose not to leave a voicemail and just decided to walk in when we got there. And anyway, so we got there and there was a sign saying no vacancy. So that was what it was. Riley and I turned around and we walked back to the trail. Unfortunately, the getting to Woodchuck Hostel from the trail was not a super far detour for us. So we were able to get back to the trail. And at that point, I really wasn't sure what our best option was. And we just continued walking down kind of Main Street in Damascus, which is called Laurel Avenue. And I was keeping my eyes open for, actually the main thing I was keeping my eyes open for was the Dollar General, because I was somewhat hungry at that point, and I was interested to see if you could stop in and get some food and at least make our stomachs happy. But I didn't see the Dollar General. Couldn't find it. So I chalked that up to just something that had changed since I was last there in 2017 and 2018. And at that point I was like, I guess I was thinking that we would just walk down and look for other housing options. But at that point it actually started to rain, a little bit heavily. Fortunately it didn't last too long, but it did start to rain. So we took cover under an awning. Fortunately there was an awning, there were many awnings available because we were in the town. Just awnings attached to various stores. And at that point I realized that in my Far Out app, the Far Out app, which I use for navigation and also to track my mileage, it's split up into different sections. The first section is Springer Mountain to Standing Bear Farm. The second section is Standing Bear Farm to Damascus. And then the third section is called Southern Virginia, and it goes from Damascus to some point in Virginia, a couple hundred miles up. And to save space on my phone, I only download the Far Out maps one section at a time, so I can make sure that there's as much space as possible to use for dealing with YouTube videos. And so what I realized as we were walking down Laurel Avenue in Damascus that night, Thursday, 2 nights ago, is that I still needed to download the maps for the new section, Southern Virginia. Because without it, if we continued on the trail, I wouldn't be able to rely on the app for navigational purposes. And I should have done that when we were at the library, but I just didn't think of it. So at that point, I decided that we should walk back to the library so that I could at least download the maps for the new section, and so that I'd be ready whenever we were ready to hike on, that I wouldn't have any navigational issues. So we waited out the rain. Fortunately, it didn't take too long to stop. It was just a temporary downpour, and we were able to hike back to the library. And at that point, I kind of just didn't worry about that sign that was there that said it was under security surveillance. And we just found a bench on the porch, and I laid out my stuff, accessed the Wi-Fi network, started plugging in my devices, rolled out the foam pad so Riley could sit on. And anyway, so I kind of got comfortable there, and I started the process of first updating the Far Out app, and then I started the process of trying to upload some YouTube videos. And at that point, it was probably about 11 o'clock or so, maybe getting to 12. And I figured I would just upload a few YouTube videos, and still wasn't sure what the plan was for the night. I was seriously considering at that point, once the few YouTube videos had uploaded, I was seriously considering just hiking on past Damascus and just finding the next campsite. That was definitely an option that I was considering, and I was actually leaning towards that initially. Then I decided to look up information about the Dollar General in Damascus, because I was confused. I was expecting to see it there and didn't see it where I was expecting. So I looked up some information, and I found some information that indicated that it was on a street that was different from where I was expecting to find it. Like just basically like a block earlier. And so when I saw that, I was motivated actually to not hike on, because, well, first of all, let me explain that one of the main things I wanted to do in Damascus was to get to the post office and be able to send home a few things that I didn't need to carry anymore. The main thing was my damaged 2-person outdoor vitals tent that Riley had clawed a hole in the bug netting. So when I was considering to just hike on from Damascus, I was at that point willing to just continue to carry all the stuff that I was hoping to send home via the post office. And I was just at the point where I didn't want to, stay up the whole night, and I wanted to get some sleep. And so it was worth it for me to just continue carrying the extra stuff until I got to another town that had a post office. However, and by the way, if you guys are getting bored with my ramblings here, feel free to just turn off the video. I totally understand that this is not super interesting to maybe 95 or 99% of the people that are interested in hiking videos. But I'm just trying to explain, for anybody that is interested, what our experience was like in the town. Right, so when I looked up the information on the Dollar General, I was actually intrigued because I thought it was basically in a location where I hadn't looked, And that meant that if we did spend the night in Damascus, somehow made it to the morning, that I would be able to go to the Dollar General in the morning and get a few things that might be nice to get there. Number one, like one thing I was looking forward to getting was like a bag of chocolate chips so that I could snack on some chocolate while I'm hiking. And I was also looking for, possibly looking forward to just getting a few just basic food items like some chickpeas and some corn, just something that I could have a nice meal with before we left. So that made me seriously consider not hiking on. Anyway, while I was doing all this, it was just getting later and later and later. I'm still being productive because I'm still working through various YouTube upload processes. So I'm making progress with catching up on all the videos that I have stored on my GoPro and my phone and stuff. But nevertheless, it's getting later and later and later. And at that point, I was also, since I found that the Dollar General might still be an option, at that point I was starting to favor going back into the woods where we came from and just hiking up a little bit further. Like originally I was hoping to find a campsite that was like right at the edge of the woods, but I was starting to think that it might be reasonable to, since there wasn't any available campsite near the edge of the woods, I was thinking that maybe I could walk up maybe like as much as a mile or so, or maybe a little less than that, and maybe find something that could work. Because I do remember seeing a possible tent site, but it was just further up than I initially had wanted to go. But I was thinking maybe it would be worth it to just hike back up there, if it meant that I could come back down into Damascus in the morning, go to the Dollar General and the post office and take care of what it needed. So that was another option I was considering. And the benefit of that option is that I would at least get some sleep. Because it's nice to get sleep, as everyone can probably agree with. So I continued, considering that and keeping it as an option while I was continuing to make progress with uploading YouTube videos. And as I was continuing with that process, I figured that it would just be too much work to try to hike back south into the woods and find a campsite in the dark. I mean, the pro of that is that I would at least get some sleep, but I decided it was just going to be too much work and not worth the benefit of just getting, it would just be a few hours of sleep anyway. It wasn't like I was getting there at 9 p.m. Like at that point it was past midnight, and it would have taken at least an hour to hike back and set up the tent in the dark. And I figured that just the whole process would just be exhausting in itself. So at that point, I was just basically resigning myself to staying put, staying where we were, staying on the porch. Also, by that point, Riley and I had been on the porch for several hours, and nobody had come up to bother us. Nobody had come up to say, "What are you guys doing here?" I had seen a police car actually that had driven by the library a few times. I assume the officer was just making his rounds, making sure, just doing a safety patrol. And he didn't the police car didn't stop in to ask what we were doing there. I don't know if he saw us, but either way, we didn't seem to cause a problem that he was concerned about. So since we had been there for a while and no one was bothering us, I was starting to feel comfortable that it was okay for us to be there. Certainly we weren't disturbing anything. We were just sitting on the bench using the charging outlet and the Wi-Fi. Whoops. So at that point, I was prepared to just kind of settle in for the night, and just try to get as many YouTube videos uploaded as I could. And my plan was to, once morning came around, the post office I knew was going to open at 8:30 a.m. and I saw that the Dollar General would open at 8 a.m. And so I was basically thinking that I would take care of our business at the post office and the Dollar General, and then maybe get some breakfast at the main restaurant in town, which is the Damascus Diner. I was getting hungrier as the night wore on, and getting a nice breakfast at the Damascus Diner definitely was a very appealing option at that point. So I was thinking we would just take care of our business in the morning, and then, okay, we are back here. I have been talking so long that my GoPro battery reached 0% life while I was talking. I think it's, when I turned it on, it was at like 30 some percent. So I just pulled off to the side and put a new battery in. That should be fully charged. And I think where I left off was that I was just explaining that I was finally settling on the plan in the middle of the night that we were just gonna hunker down, stay put on the porch of the library, I was gonna try to get as many videos uploaded as I could, and then when morning rolled around, I was gonna probably go to the post office first when it opened at 8:30, then go to the Dollar General, gonna pick up some chocolate chips, and I think I was also gonna get some more oatmeal, because I was low on oatmeal, and also just anything else that piqued my fancy while I was there. And then I might also get some breakfast at Damascus Diner, and of course then I would be operating on no sleep. So my plan was to hike out with Riley in the morning after eating breakfast, and probably just get to a campsite and set up our tent and just take a nap for however long we wanted to. I figured it wouldn't need to be like a full 8 hours, but if we could maybe take a nap for like 4 or 5 hours and then get up and hike during the day, I figured that would be enough to at least get us going and feel reasonably okay during the day. So that was my plan. And I felt strong enough at that point that I'd be able to get through the night and through the morning without any issue. And then I felt that getting a nap in the early morning, or I guess the late morning, would be enough to help us hike on later in the day. So that was the plan, and I continued the plan by just trying to get as many videos uploaded to YouTube. So I was able to actually make decent progress with that. I was able to upload like 7 videos overnight. But the last video that I was trying to upload, it seemed to take a while. So we didn't end up leaving the library until like a little after 10 a.m. in the morning, which is actually when the library opened. And when the library opened, the way that it opened was that it's a small town. So like I was expecting that the library employees would drive up in their cars and maybe go through a back entrance or something. But there was one lady who just walked up the street on the side of the library, and she turned the corner and she came around the front and walked up the porch, and then she let herself in, and that was it. So I guess they only needed one library employee to open the library for the day, and she just walks to work. She just, I guess, lives close by, and she doesn't need to drive a car, so that was kind of cool. The other thing I'll mention is like we were fine during the night. There was never anybody that came up to bother us or told us that we needed to leave. So I was pleased with that. There was a guy that came up around 6 in the morning. It was after it had already turned light out, and he asked if he could borrow one of my, or not borrow, but like use one of my charging cables to charge his phone. And I was fine with that. And he plugged his phone in, and then he started like talking, and he was a talker. He just kept on talking. And I was like trying to be nice and listen to him. But I was, of course, having trouble concentrating because I was operating on no sleep. But he was just talking. I asked him what line of work he was in, and it seems like he was in like a trucking / hauling line of work. And he was saying that I should, he was recommending that a really good way to make money is to go to work after hurricanes. Go to wherever a hurricane occurs, and then whenever hurricanes occur, there's a lot of natural disaster money that gets spent to clean up the mess. And he was saying how you can just make a lot of money like trying to help clean up whatever messes exist after hurricanes. That was the main thing I took away from what he was saying. So he was a real nice guy. But I was, yeah, it wasn't a bad experience at all. It was just a new experience. Getting to talk to someone I wouldn't otherwise be able to talk to if I wasn't hiking the trail and hanging out at the library at 6 in the morning. So it's always cool to talk to new people and hear other people's experiences. Okay, so I got off on a tangent there. But what I was getting to is that we didn't end up leaving the library until about 10 in the morning. And then we finally got going, and by that point I had actually realized that the Dollar General in fact was not open. So earlier in the night I had found some information about where it was located and realized that it was located like a street off of where I was expecting. But I later realized that it had actually gone out of business. So it was there in 2018, but no longer operating currently. But by the time I realized that, it was already like close to getting light out. So that wasn't enough for me to change my plan. So the plan at that point was to first go to the post office, take care of business, then get some breakfast, and then hike out. So we got to the post office, and I was able to bring Riley in like the front area so that he didn't have to stay outside in the sunshine and get too hot. And the guy who was working at the post office was a super friendly guy. He tried to help me get the best rate for, or the lowest possible rate for what I was trying to mail out. And he basically recommended that if I had my own box and I didn't have to like buy a prepaid box from the post office, that would be the cheapest way of mailing what I wanted to mail out. It would only be like $15 as opposed to $25. So what he suggested I do is actually, this was actually my suggestion. I decided to walk down the street to the Damascus Outfitter store and just see if they had a spare box that I could use. And I ended up doing that, and they were able to give me an old shoebox that they were throwing away or putting in the recycling, and they didn't need anymore. So that it turned out that was big enough to fit all the things that I needed to mail. And so I was very happy with that. I got the free box, and I was able to mail everything out at the cheapest possible rate, and I was very pleased with all the suggestions that the guy at the post office was giving me. So that all went well. And then I was planning to go to Damascus Diner and get some breakfast. But before going there, I noticed that there was a store next to the Outfitter store called Buddy's Goodies, and didn't really know what the deal was with that store, but it seemed curious to me, so I decided to stop in there just briefly to check it out. And they were not a heavily stocked store, but they did have a few things on their shelves, and they had a small food section, and that was of course the section that I was most interested in. And the thing that was cool about this store is that all the food stuff that they had was like super discounted, and they just had a very small selection of stuff, but it was very random what they had, and it was all super discounted. And they had a section, like 2 shelves of food items that had expired, that like they were past the expiration date on the package, and they were selling those items because they specifically put them on these 2 shelves, and they put a sign up saying these are all expired items. So because of that, we're selling everything for just a quarter. Like each individual item was just priced at a quarter because it had already expired. But then they also had other food items that were not expired, but they were also reasonably priced. Like everything was like $1 or $2 or $1.50. So I was just very intrigued by this whole section, partly because they didn't have the Dollar General as an option. So I was in need of some type of resupply, and I was certainly interested in possibly, buying some candy or munchies that I could bring with me on trail. And while they didn't have a big selection here at Buddy's Goodies, they had enough of a selection for me to stay a while and investigate. They had a bunch of like chocolate items, like they had a bunch of Easter bunnies, and they also had a whole bunch of, and on their expired shelves they had a whole bunch of cracker boxes, like entertainment crackers. They're called entertainment crackers. I know that's not very descriptive, but they're basically just like round white crackers, and they have like a salty, buttery, somewhat sweet taste to them. And I've had them before, and I actually like the taste very much. Hello, Riley. You okay? What do you see up there, buddy? I don't see any animals up there. Anyway, so they had a whole bunch of those as an option, and I was strongly considering getting several of those boxes because I liked the taste of the crackers. I wasn't concerned about them being expired because, like, all the stuff that they had in the expired shelves were very shelf-stable items. It wasn't like it was any fresh produce that would really go bad quickly after the expiration date. It was just like processed foods that are usually still good even after the expiration date. One of the things they had in the expired section was a bag, like a 16-ounce bag of Whole Foods 365 brand almonds that were like roasted and made with sea salt, and it was and everything was unopened. And it was like a bag that if you bought it directly from Whole Foods, it would probably cost like at least $6 or $7. And they were selling it for a quarter here, just because it was a little bit past the expiration date. The other thing they had in the expired section were boxes of Cracker Jacks, which were also very appealing to me because I like the taste of Cracker Jacks. If you haven't had them in a while, it's popcorn with a buttery toffee syrup mixed in and roasted peanuts, all mixed in with this buttery toffee syrup. And it's just got a very nice flavor to it, and I figured I would really enjoy the taste of Cracker Jacks while on the trail. So those were all very cheaply priced. And in addition to that, in the non-expired section, they had a can of soup that looked very interesting. It was a Greek-style soup. Riley, you're getting a little too energetic here, so I'm gonna take the lead and keep you behind me here. It was a Greek-style soup that was called like lemon orzo chicken. So it was like a lemon flavored soup with orzo grain in it. Orzo, if you're not familiar with it, is like a cross between pasta and rice. It's about the size of, it's sized similarly to rice, but it has more of a pasta texture to it. And it also had some chicken in it, which I wasn't too concerned about. It's like the chicken was just a small amount in the overall soup. But when I saw that, it made me think that maybe I didn't actually need to go to the diner. Maybe I could just buy this soup here, as well as a few other of these resupply items, and I could eat some of it for a meal while I'm here, like including the soup, and then pack out the rest as resupply. They also had apple pie filling, that they were like cans of apple pie filling, like which included like whole slices of apple mixed in with like apple glaze, which seemed, to my hiker eyes, it just seemed really, really spectacular. And I was thinking that, well, I could first have the soup, and I could walk down to one of the gas station convenience stores on the far end of town and maybe complement the soup with French fries or just something from their grill, and then I could have the apple pie filling for dessert. So anyway, so I spent a while I probably spent like at least an hour at this Buddy's Goodies place, And I left with a big haul of stuff. I got a bunch of their crackers. I got like a bunch of their Cracker Jacks. I got the soup. I got 2 cans of the apple pie filling. I got a can of applesauce. And I got a bag of like, I'm gonna turn the camera off here. Looks like there's some other hikers. All right, so I'm back here. We passed the other hiker that was in front of us. He was going the other way. And yeah, I was just explaining that I was able to buy a whole bunch of food at this Buddy's Goodies place. And food that, like a lot of food that I was able to pack out and eat, and I still have in my pack, and just enjoy as snack items while on the trail. So that includes the Cracker Jacks, which I've actually already finished, as well as all the entertainment crackers, the almonds that I mentioned. I also got a package of like individually wrapped chocolates, which I actually haven't started, but that's going to satisfy my chocolate craving that I was having. And I got a bunch of other, it's hard to describe it. It kind of tastes like chocolate, but I think it's made with like palm kernel oil. So it's definitely in the candy category. And it will melt at high temperatures like chocolate does. But it's not exactly chocolate. It's made more with oily substances, so it's very processed. I'm sure it's not healthy for to consume in large quantities, but it's and it's purple in color. I think it's meant for like baking. Like it's meant to create some type of frosting, I guess, that you can add to baked goods. So you take these chips and you just melt them in the microwave, and it turns into a like a glaze or frosting that you can easily apply to baked goods, and then it'll harden up once it cools down. But I figured I could just get them and eat them as candy while I'm on the trail. So I have that and the individually wrapped chocolates to enjoy as candy items, which I've been craving many times. So now I have my sweet tooth category covered for the most part. And the other thing I got is I got a bunch of they had a section of drink mix packets. So I got several PK brand drink mix packets. I got like actually 3 boxes of 6 each, so I have like 18 total. And they're all, I think they're like black cherry pomegranate flavor. I haven't tried it yet, but it seems really nice. And I learned that this PK brand, I've tried this before on the trail in different flavors. Initially, I thought it might be the same as the Peak Refuel dehydrated meals that are popular along the trail. But apparently that's not the case. Apparently this PK drink mix brand stands for Pure Kick. And it's different from the Peak Refuel dehydrated meals. And the drink mixes, I looked at the ingredients, and it seems like it's one of the healthier options for drink mixes. It's got a good mixture of vitamins and minerals that are included. So obviously it has like sugar to make it taste good, but it also seems to have a good balance of vitamins and minerals to as well as electrolytes to make it appropriate for activities like hiking and other high intensity activities. So that makes me feel good about consuming it. And while I was there, I initially had Riley outside, and there was only, like, I was the only customer in the store for the most of the time I was there, and there was just one store employee who was attending the cash register, and she was very friendly, and she actually offered, she was like, you can just bring your dog in the store if you want, so he doesn't have to get hot while he's outside on the sidewalk. And so that was very nice of her, and I was able to bring Riley in the store so he could chill out on the cold floor in there and not have to bake in the sun at all. And I asked her where, like, they supply, where they get their supplies of all the stuff that they have in the store, because it seemed just like a very random hodgepodge of things. And what she explained is that they have, like, this guy who's their main supplier who buys stuff, like, secondhand, I guess, from, or maybe secondhand isn't the right word, but he buys from a channel of goods that are, I guess, I'm not sure what the best word to use is, but what she explained is that I guess when goods get returned to stores, they don't always get just put back on the shelves for resale. Sometimes they just get put into a different channel, and eventually they get sold off. And what she explained is that this guy who supplies the stores sometimes gets his supplies from items that are returned to stores. And so because they're returned, he's able to get them at a very, very heavily discounted price. And that explains why several of the items had already expired, and also why they're able to sell the items at such a cheap price. So I was very pleased with my visit to this Buddy's Goodies place. I was able to get a lot of food and not have to spend a lot of money for it. And my pack is full of good food items now that I've been in the process of enjoying and should be able to continue to enjoy for many, many miles to come. So we are making progress here, going up the mountain. And then I guess just to continue with the Damascus story, at that point I didn't feel the need to go to the Damascus diner, particularly with the purchase of the lemon orzo soup. And I just decided to continue making our way down Laurel Avenue, and then the AT continues with a right turn onto Douglas Drive, which passes by a couple gas stations. And I was thinking I could stop at one of them and see if I could get some stuff from their grill to complement the soup that I was going to eat. And we passed by the first gas station, which had this grill called Cowboys, which I had actually been to previously. They were there in 2018, and they were still there. So I decided to stop in, and I think I mentioned this in the actual Thursday video, or the video where we were leaving Damascus, but I asked if Riley would be allowed in, and they said unfortunately no, but that they had, I'm going to stop here and take a little break here, but that they had picnic tables on the side of the building that were mostly shaded, so that seemed like a great option. So I was able to go over there, and for one thing I needed a picnic table because at this point I was carrying just like 3 bags of stuff from the Buddy's Goodies place, and I needed a place to organize everything and get it all in my pack. And so I set stuff up out there near the picnic tables and secured Riley, and then I went in and ordered a grilled cheese sandwich and some French fries. And I also got I looked in their dog food section. I wasn't sure initially if they would have dog food, but they did have dry dog food, and they also had several cans of wet dog food. And I was looking for a treat for Riley, and they had a can of Purina One beef and bison wet dog food, which sounded like Riley would love it. It basically had like chunks of meat in it mixed in with some wet mixture, and so I got that as well. And when the meal came, the lady who prepared it had included some, like an extra bag with a couple chicken patties, which I learned later that she included that specifically for Riley, because she had seen Riley when I walked in. And so I was able to give Riley a really nice treat. I was able to give him some of his dog food, as well as these 2 chicken patties, plus the wet dog food that I purchased. And then I was able to enjoy the lemon orzo chicken soup with trace amounts of chicken in it, as well as the grilled cheese sandwich and the French fries. And the grilled cheese sandwich, I haven't had a professionally made grilled cheese sandwich in a while, and I was just really happy with the quality of this grilled cheese sandwich. The bread was grilled like perfectly, so that it was nice and crispy and buttery, but then on the inside it was soft, and the cheese was just the right amount of cheese, and it was just an absolutely delicious grilled cheese sandwich. And I enjoyed that with the French fries, and I also kind of was dipping the grilled cheese sandwich into the broth of the lemon orzo soup, and that meal really hit the spot for me. It was that was only the second, like, I guess, restaurant style meal that I've had. The first one being at Smoky Mountain Diner, which was breakfast food. But this was like the first restaurant style meal that I had, which wasn't breakfast food. So this was like an actual lunch/dinner style meal. And I was very ready for some actual food, because I wasn't able to have a proper meal the night before. So this really hit the spot for me. And then after I was finished there, I went back in, and of course, during the time that I was enjoying the food, I was making progress with organizing my pack. And at that point, I was almost ready to hike out, but I decided to either have some ice cream or some chocolate milk. And I decided that I would first have the ice cream, because I figured if I had the chocolate milk first, that would just fill me up to the point where I wouldn't be in the mood for ice cream. So I first got some ice cream, and I showed this on the video. I got this Roadrunner raspberry flavor, and I justified it by saying that this is in celebration / recognition of our progress so far in the hike. And I didn't try to, rush eating the ice cream at all. I just ate it at a nice, comfortable pace. And I think I enjoyed the ice cream to the maximum possible extent. And at that point, I went in and bought the half gallon of chocolate milk, which I was planning to drink a little bit of, but also hike out with, which I was okay with, because I figured I would drink it within a day or so. So certainly it was extra weight to carry out, but certainly something that would keep me happy for however long I was able to continue to drink it. And it's the kind of thing where it's got two benefits in one. Like, number one, it helps keep me hydrated, but also the chocolate milk is it was not just chocolate milk, but it was whole milk, so it does a really good job of keeping me full and avoiding feeling hungry. Half gallon of whole milk is quite filling. Riley, what are you doing? Oh my goodness, this is not acceptable. The trail does not go in this direction here. Okay, so I think that basically concludes my Damascus story. By the way, it probably doesn't show well on camera, but that rock over there, there's a white blaze on that rock right in front of us where my finger's pointing. So that's basically the general direction we're going to be heading, and I assume we're going to be heading back into the trees over there, so we have a good bit of hiking to do to get back into the woods here. So overall, I was pleased with Riley. Okay, I just need to untangle ourselves here. I was pleased with our Damascus experience. After sending the stuff home at the post office, I put my pack on and it felt really, really good. So I was able to send home the 2-person tent, as well as Riley's big thing of paw wax, because I had picked up a smaller container of paw wax at a shelter maybe 100 miles back. So at this point I didn't need the larger container of paw wax, so that saves me like a pound right there. And I also sent home my second backup shirt. So I currently just have this orange shirt. I was also carrying a similar style shirt that had a hoodie for extra warmth, but I figured I don't really need that anymore with it getting further into summer. I'm generally perfectly warm at night with my sleep system as it is, so I sent home that extra shirt and sent home a few other things. I sent home my the Tyvek ground sheet that I was using for my previous tent, since I had ordered a new ground sheet with the new tent. Those were the main things that I sent home. And my pack weight felt really good when I first tried it on. Of course, after getting all the stuff at Buddy's Goodies, my pack was significantly heavier and did not feel nearly as good. But I'm okay with that because that's just a temporary thing. It's already starting to feel better today as Riley and I are eating the food, and it will continue to feel better. I'm generally okay with adding weight to the pack if it's food, because that's just a temporary thing. So yes, the summary of the Damascus trip is I was able to get several videos uploaded. I was able to successfully go to the post office and lighten my pack by sending stuff home. I was able to get a good resupply at Buddy's Goodies. I was able to get a good meal at Cowboys, as well as by eating the stuff at Buddy's Goodies. I didn't mention yet that the apple pie filling that I bought, I was originally planning to eat one of those cans as dessert, but when I saw the ice cream that they were selling at Cowboys, I decided to change that plan and just enjoy the ice cream as dessert. And I was able to pack out the apple pie filling in one of my plastic containers that I have, and so I'm able to actually enjoy that now on the trail. I've already started eating through it, and I should be able to continue enjoying it into tomorrow. So the only bad thing is that I didn't get any sleep, which is not a minor thing. I think what I would probably do if I had to redo the situation is that I would just give up on trying to upload YouTube videos in Damascus, because of the fact that they have a no tenting policy, and it's not really a good option for me to spend a lot of money to stay at a hostel to get Wi-Fi access. So I think if I had to redo it, I would just find a campsite on trail that is relatively close to Damascus, like within a few miles or so, get a good night's sleep, and then hike in the morning and not bother with trying to upload any YouTube videos, and just basically take care of my business at the post office, get a good meal, get some rest, you know, sitting down, and then hike out. And I would have, had I done that, I would have had a great night's sleep, gotten everything done that I wanted to. The only thing that I wouldn't have gotten done is I wouldn't have been able to upload many videos, but that can wait until later when I have a better access to Wi-Fi and ability to use it while also possibly getting some sleep. So with that, if anybody is still listening, if anybody is still awake, I think that concludes my rundown of our Damascus experience. And we can turn the page and focus. Okay, so Riley is using the bathroom here, so I'm gonna need to clean this up. And it's good that it's light out, so we've basically gotten to the top of the mountain here. Oh, and there is a deer there. There's a deer over there. It's just 2 deer. They're taking off. They were waiting for the right moment to skedaddle. Riley is very aware of their presence here. So I am going to clean up Riley's business, and we're going to continue on, and we will check in later. Right, Riley? Okay. Riley? Hello. Hopefully you can see Riley there. With the GoPro on my head, it's a little harder for me to know exactly where it's pointing and if I can actually get what I want to in the shot or not. But we are walking through a kind of a pretty area right now. Lots of orange flowers. I turned my phone on a short while ago and it was 8:18, so I think it's probably about 8:30 now. So we're working with the last little stretches of daylight here. We're gonna be finding a campsite relatively soon. So I'm finished with the Damascus story, and just wanted to preview some of the stuff that is on my mind as far as what we're going to be getting to in the near future. So the next main section of trail actually that we're going to be getting to is the Grayson Highlands, which is known for it's not a long section of trail. It's the trail passes through Grayson Highlands State Park, and I think it's only like a couple miles that the trail passes through that section of the park. But when we're in that park, what it's known for is a population of wild ponies that live there, which hang out wherever they want to. But if you're hiking on the AT in the park, or if you just go to the park, it's not hard to see the ponies. They are like all around. Got a sign there that says spring 50 feet to the right. I think there's many other water sources, and we don't really need water, so I'm gonna pass by. But yeah, so we're approaching mile 500. So sometime tomorrow we should be entering Grayson Highlands State Park, and it'll probably be midday while it's still sunny out, and we should be able to see many ponies that live there, and I'm sure Riley will be very excited about that. So I'll be sure to capture some footage of that experience. So that's like on trail as far as like the next big thing that I'm aware of that's on trail. But as far as getting to towns, which is also like a really exciting thing for me, as part of the AT experience, of course I have to make sure to plan out which towns we're going to get to, and where, approximately when that's going to be, and make sure that I have enough food for Riley and I to get us from place to place. And with all the resupply that I was able to do in Damascus, I definitely have enough food for myself, but I still have like a full gallon bag of dog food for Riley, which should easily last, I would say, 3 more days, I think. And the next resupply point that I'm expecting to get to is the town of Atkins, Virginia, which is, I would say it's about 54 miles, a little over 50 miles from where we are currently, which means we should be able to get there in about 3 days, maybe a little over 3 days. So I think I'm in a good place currently for the amount of dog food that I have for Riley. But when we get to Atkins, it's not like a traditional town that we're going to pass through. It's basically like a road that we're going to cross over, and then they don't have a whole lot of options, at least in the part that we're going to be near. Like further down the road in one direction or the other, I'm sure there's several other businesses that exist, but in the part that we're going to be near, since we're not going to do a lot of walking off trail, there are 2 gas stations, both of which have a like a convenience store attached to them. So they should have a basic selection of, what is this? Just something under a rock here. Looks like a buff. It's called a buff. I think it's something that you can wear over your neck to keep yourself a little warmer if it's cold out. Anyway, yeah, so there's 2 gas stations, both of which have convenience stores, and I think they should have some options for dog food, which I'm probably gonna rely on to resupply Riley's dog food. So we'll see when we get there. I'm hopeful that they have some dry dog food that I can pick up. And if they don't, for whatever reason, then I will figure out what to do when we get there. Riley is stopped for some reason. He hears some noises. But anyway, I'm optimistic. I'm counting on Ooh, Riley is just saying, I'm gonna plop down. I am close to done for the day. That's fine. So we're gonna be stopping soon anyway. Yeah, so Atkins, Virginia, it's got 2 options for like two gas stations, which I think will have some type of dog food resupply. And then the other thing that it has is, next to one of the gas stations, it has a Mexican restaurant that I've eaten at both times I was in Atkins on my previous AT hikes, and it's an excellent Mexican place. So I will definitely plan on eating there again when we cross by there. And based on our current position, I think we will get there at the earliest in about 3 days, maybe sometime on the 4th day. So Riley is doing fine here. He's just telling me that he's ready to stop soon. Of course, we can't stop here because there's no campsite here, but this isn't something new. He does this near the end of the days sometimes, just because he's getting tired, but it doesn't mean that he's not able to continue forward in order to find a campsite. So yeah, so those two things. We have Grayson Highland State Park and the ponies coming up tomorrow. And then Atkins, Virginia, resupply at the gas station and enjoy some Mexican food to look forward to in the next few days. Meanwhile, darkness is coming, so I'm gonna turn the camera off and talk to Riley, and we're gonna figure out our plan for the rest of the day here. We'll check in later. All right, so Riley and I are in our tent again and just want to close out the day. So we did hike into the night a little bit, but we found a campsite that is about 1/10 of a mile before this place called Elk Garden. Not exactly sure what that is, but we'll go into it tomorrow morning when it's light out, and we'll find out. Anyway, so we hiked a total of 15.8 miles today, and we are at mile number 495.1 according to Far Out, and that's about 6 miles until we get to Grayson Highland State Park. So we should get there tomorrow. Hope everyone's doing well, and we will say goodnight. And we'll check in tomorrow. Bye for now.